My name is Chad Lewis. As Troy mentioned, I actually work in Latin America and in the Caribbean. I've been with Trimble for 20 years, um, and I was invited to present uh, during this Monson workshop. So, as Troy had mentioned, and Chip as well, uh, you know, the SX12 is a very powerful instrument that can be used in the field, and then also taking those deliverables into Business Center or Trimble RealWorks or any third-party software is the next step. Um, so I also want to mention that the uh, the software that we're about to see, Trimble Business Center, this is the scanning module that's included. Or I shouldn't say it's included. It's a module that needs to be purchased in order to deal with point clouds within Business Center. And I want to clarify that that can be any point cloud. So if you have Faro scanners or Leica scanners in house, you can bring that information into Business Center and manipulate that data as well. Also, if you have drones, maybe some of these DJI drones, you can process that information and get that drone information into Business Center and use a lot of the tools available. So I've been on a lot of demos in the past in Latin America where we're flying different types of drones, and I've seen people do all the processing in Pix4D, and then they'll actually export out the LAS file, the point cloud to Business Center to do some of the classifications, line work, and whatnot. So just keep that in mind. This is a SX12 demo that we're going to be seeing, but just keep an open mind that it could be any point cloud. So the demo that we're going to see are small project areas, but these can be massive, right? Areas captured with drones and whatnot. So um, as mentioned in the previous slides, um, one of the benefits of the SX12, and this afternoon Dan's going to go over the X7 within Business Center as well as RealWorks. But one of the beauties of the SX12 is you as the user, you know, very familiar with station setups with Total Station. Doesn't matter which brand you're using. You set up on point A, backside point B, and you start, laying out stuff or performing in topos. So the workflow when you're in the field with the SX12 is the same. Um, and when we do that, and we use normal station setup uh, in the field, and that could be set up on A, backside B, turn to C, or that could be resections, right? Or it could be ref line. It could be any station setup that you use with your total stations. Uh, and when you do that and you import that information into Business Center, there's no registration or georeferencing needed. It's simply import the data, colorize the point clouds automatically, and start working on your deliverable. So that's pretty powerful when you're working with SX12. And I know Monson has a good underground community or people working in mining. Uh, you just can't find a nicer instrument when it comes to that because you're already georeferenced. You can do those point clouds underground, tunneling, what have you, and it just saves a lot of time. Okay, the scan stations. I like to use those as a supplemental, and we'll see this here in a minute. Um, so let's say you're set up on point A, backside point B again, and then you do a scan, and then maybe you shoot your foresight in, which would be point C, and then you're going to move, let's say, 200 feet, but maybe at 100 feet you need to capture some information. So instead of shooting a point in the field and setting up on that, you can just put the SX12 anywhere you want out there, ensuring that you have a good uh, reference that we're going to use to adjust the scans within the software. You can just set the scanner up or the total station up and just hit scan with no coordinates, and we can take care of that in the field. And we do that via the scan stations, and we're going to see that here in a minute. Um, and then you can also use the scan stations if all you're worried about is just scanning. So there's no need for coordinates. It's all relative. You can just put scan stations up and just hit scan, 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 and capture that information quite quickly. So very powerful. And last but not least, we see in this particular, um, let me get my pointer here. In this particular job here, we can see that there were some control points out around these stockpiles. Okay, they actually traversed through on these. So when they did that, um, basically they, all of this stuff is already registered. So there's no issue here. But what I wanted to say is, let's say these were blue vectors, which is very common, is people will just go out here, measure with the RTK, backside into those RTK shots, and then perform the scans. So uh, the interoperability between total station and GPS is very easy to achieve if you're already a Trimble Access user or if you're new to Trimble Access. So once we get the point clouds into Business Center, we see that normally you're going to do some sort of project cleanup. So one of the beauties, the beautiful tools in Business Center is we have what we call classification. And we see over here that I've run a classification on here, and we've already automatically extracted the buildings out, the trees, and the ground in this case, right, which is represented in brown. And then you see these poles here in red. So these are already extracted out with one push of the button. Okay, so it's a very powerful tool. And as I mentioned, I've seen users export out drone data into Business Center solely for this tool classifications. We do have several options. We have outdoor and indoor. So obviously, if you're outdoor, there's a couple different options uh, available to you. And then for the underground folks, if you're in a tunnel and you have machinery in there, tunnel, people walking around, we can classify that information out as well to start working on the tunneling deliverables. And as I mentioned before, the good thing about this is it's available with any point cloud. So you can, if you have a Faro, if you have any Leica, or you're getting point clouds from a third-party group, we can simply import those LAS files into Business Center and run the classification routine. We'll also see, just some simple tools, the point cloud, the colors, so we can change that. So here we see a scan. These are different regions, if you will. This is the classification regions. You can switch this over to an intensity-based view, and then elevation-based view. And there's also black and white and whatnot. Okay, another really nice tool, and I hinted to you guys in the demo, was you can sample this data. So as I mentioned before, we've been on surveys, maybe they're stockpiles, or maybe it's just general topographic surveys. And the first thing that the user wants to do is, instead of visualizing 20 million, 30 million points, they want to sample that down. So we can do that in Business Center. And that allows you to speed up your deliverable process. You can reduce the size of, say, an export of the LAS file if you're going into Revit or some other software, and you don't need the whole entire scan. You can render that down and export that out. And the same goes for tunnel classifications. Maybe you're going to sample that down before you're going to strip those points out. If we have a tunnel, if we have a road, a tunnel, we don't need millions of points per se if we're only interested in, say, every tenth of a foot or something around the tunnel. But in saying that, let's say we want to extract curb and gutter out. This could be from the SX12. It could be from one of the mobile mappers. We're going to want to use that whole entire point cloud to ensure we get a good definition of the curb and gutter. But let's say, you do a topo of just an open field or something like that, maybe the road, and all you're looking at is a surface per se. We can clean that up and maybe get a looser sampling to get the contours out and what have you. So it's another powerful tool. Okay, so if we look at this example, this is just a small section of a road. We see that small little section right there has 13 million points. So with one click of the button, we can sample that down, and now we're dealing with 9,600 points. Okay, so that's up to the user. It is a very common tool that we're going to use, and we're going to see here shortly. We also have an option. You can use what's called scan to CAD points. Okay, and what this does is it allows you to basically get sections out of the point cloud. Again, this is an actual drone project here up in Wyoming, and we just did some cross sections on this. And here you can see basically the surface relative to the existing ground cross sections. Okay, but let's say I wanted to get these cross sections out. There's many ways to do it, but one of those would be scan to CAD, right? We would just simply convert that this terrain right here, this slice, if you will, and you can export it out. And right here is, you know, we see you can go in here and capture this and export it out. So scan to CAD is very useful if you want to extract out certain sections of a point cloud, and you want to do something with those points. Maybe you're going to stake them out, use them as design. It's just a simple way to convert individual CAD scan points over to CAD. So where we're going to go here now is we're going to put it all together with increased productivity using point clouds. So what I'm going to show right now is a live demo of just some of the tools. Then I've prepared some videos that are actually going to show each command. So let me just go back to this pointer here, turn this off. Okay, so Troy, I'm going to tab over to Business Center right here. Can you confirm that you can see it?
Looks good.
Yep, I can see TVC chat.
Okay, and let me know as well as I'm going through here, because right now I have a black background and this is white. Can you see from the visualization, is there one that's better than the other?
I would recommend white.
Okay.
But, that's just my preference.
Okay. All right. So right here, we see some scans here, and basically, let me see if I got this. So if I was to just bring this over here, so to get these scans in the Business Center from Trimble Access, give me 1 second here. Yeah, the powers of the dogs, right? Give me 1 second, guys. Okay, can you guys hear me?
Yeah, we got you, Chad.
Okay. So essentially, these are several projects right here, and to get the basically any of the data straight into Business Center, all we would do is drag the job file in like this, and you can see this scan 2 has associated files with it. So there's really no hard. It's not a very hard process. You just drag the job file in like you normally would, and essentially the scans would come in with the job file. So when we look at this right here, we see a cul-de-sac, right, with some scans. And in Business Center, if you have a Trimble ID, you can go ahead and just turn on what we call it's a open street map, if you will. And what I'll do is I'll just go up to here. This is street map here, but I can go up to the properties here and turn on the DigiGlobe. And what that'll do is it'll allow us to kind of view the project area without exporting out to Google, right? So this is just a single hosted imagery software that Trimble uses with Business Center here. So we can see that the cul-de-sac is lining up pretty decent right here. But what I wanted to show you is if we go in, we see 4 scans, right? So on these scans, we see CP1 and CP2. So if I uncheck these and I come back into, say, 3D view, we can see that we used a station setup, you know, a known point. So essentially that setup on A, backside B, turn to C type workflow. And when we do that, we see that this imports in automatically. It's already georeferenced. Right here, we see that we're in Colorado Central, and it's already registered. So I could go right into my deliverables, my workflows here. So that's pretty powerful. Now, if we look, we mentioned that there was something called scan stations that Troy had hinted on. So when we do a scan station, this is without coordinates. So we can see this one, you know, if I was to go back into the plan view, we can see it's a little bit rotated. We can see over here, I can go ahead and increase the point size so it's you know, visible. So we can see this power line right here is kind of cutting across the road. But most importantly, we see that this is not in line with the cul-de-sac, right? And if we were to turn this third one or fourth one on, we actually see that it's inverted. Okay, so we have some tools in Business Center to kind of view this stuff. But the biggest takeaway here is these 2 stations right here. We used coordinates in the field, a survey workflow. There's no need to do anything. I could just start working with the point cloud at this point in time. But I also wanted to show that we did some supplemental stations without coordinates, and we need to take care of that now. So how do I do that? Okay, so using the point cloud tab, we just simply go into register scans. So Troy, there's a little bit of noise. I don't know if you can mute somebody there. Okay.
Thanks.
Okay, so when we get into the register scans, we have several options here. And the first one is a plane-based option. Now, the plane-based option is for third-party or, let's say, TZF files. If I click on this here, these are scans that maybe a user would import in from a FARO instrument and what have you. So, and then you would just do an automatic plane-based registration. Okay, since we're dealing with an SX12 here, we're going to use what we call pairwise. So pairwise is just a simple routine. We have the option to just say register. Okay, so what we see here is a combination of here. This is the reference scan in red or fixed. Okay, and in this case, the reference stations are that CP1 and CP2, which is our the 2 stations that we use the setup on A backside B scenario, and then our moving station. Okay, in this case, it's station 1. But if I hit this down arrow, I can see there's 2 stations available. So maybe I'll pick station 3. Okay, and each has, so this is the view of the reference stations, CP1 and CP2, both scans. And I can go ahead and I'm going to put these back to small so it looks a little better. And then in this view, we see the moving station, and this is station 3. So the goal here is to marry these 2 scans, and then down here you'll see the combination of both. So right now we see the combination of both, but they're not registered, right? So if you were to look over here, you see telephone wires here and telephone wires here. So we got a problem. This is flipped. Okay, so we're going to take care of that right now with a registration. So there's 2 ways we can do this. You can select point pairs right here, and all you do is you would find an area that's common. So let's say this garage door, you know, and I would do the same over here. So I'm in what's called a perspective view right now. So I'll talk about that in a minute. That's where we go to orthographic. And so there's that same garage right there. Okay. So all I would have to do is pick a location, and be done with it. Okay. But in this case, let's just use Business Center's automatic feature, and we're going to hit automatically register the pair. So it's going to do run its own algorithms and register this out. So it's going to find planes that are in common. Okay, let me switch this over to, I'll explain that in a minute. So once that's done, we'll do what we call a optimize the pair. And we see we have a small residual layer and very little overlap. You're not going to see the true reality of that registration until you optimize the pair. So now we see the residual between the registration, between scan and the overlap. So scan to scan, we're seeing 4 millimeters here. And then if we look down, this is the two scans sitting on top of each other, and we see that telephone line that was over here is now where it should be. So I'm going to go ahead and just add this to reference. And by default, Business Center says, oh, you got another scan to register here. So once I say add to reference, it pulls up the last remaining scan or the next scan in the sequence. And we can go ahead and work on that. So in this case, instead of doing an automatic scan, I want to show the point pair. So we're just going to look, okay, at this garage door here. I'm going to go ahead and pick in here. And I want to make clear that you don't have to pick like an individual spot, like a little corner here, or maybe a corner here. You simply pick the plane, okay? So I'm going to just punch the middle of the garage door there. And let's say you're like, I can't really see that very well. So I can change this over to say an intensity-based scan like this. And now you can see, you know, the scan and what was hit and what wasn't. Okay, so this up here is obviously open air. So I just simply picked the center of the door, and I'm going to do the same over here. Pick the center of the door, and when I do that, it's going to automatically calculate a residual layer between the scans, in this case 2 millimeters, and we're sitting at about 60% on the overlap. So one point we could just calculate that, but I want to show basically I'm gonna orient this scan using 2 points. Okay. So one of the tools when you're outside, we can use what we call the orthographic view, and it works great for outdoors. But let's say you wanted to tunnel in, or you want a better view. It's a little slower, but it's something we call perspective, right? And what that allows me to do is I can get more of a viewing perspective of what I want to tag. So again, let's say I wanted to tunnel in here, this is very useful when you're indoors. So you can see I can tunnel. It's slower, but it's a way to really tunnel into the point cloud. So you can see now I'm looking out. Okay, so it's very useful in indoors and at times outdoors, especially if there's a lot of trees and stuff like that, where you may hit when you're doing the registration process. So I'm just going to go ahead and tag this area here and this area here. And by doing that, we've anchored this down. We see the residuals. So I'm happy with that. So I'm going to just add to reference. Okay. And the final thing we're going to do, since we're working with a project here, is we're going to go ahead and just do an overall refinement of all the point clouds. Okay. And by doing that, we see that the two fixed points in this case were the observations from the total station. So I'm just going to go ahead and refine that. And once the refinement is done, it's going to come up and it's going to come up and give me an opportunity to do a report. Okay. And it's not a very detailed report per se, but it's a report that allows you to see the overlap, the precisions between scans and whatnot. Okay, so I can come into here. It tells me the stations. I'm looking at 3 millimeters of the cloud-to-cloud air. And then it also just gives you some color coding here. The air, it's an orange here, so it's acceptable, but it is barking at you a little bit to come in here and take a look at the overlap and the confidence levels. Okay, so we're looking at basically a 5 millimeter air and 23% on the overlap. Okay, so one of the good things about using the scan registrations inside of Business Center is when you're in the field and you set up on A and you backsite B, a lot of times the user will accept, say, 2 or 3 millimeters of the air between the station setups, and you can achieve a better registration when you're using cloud to cloud if there's enough data. Okay, so I'm going to just say I'm going to close this, and we're going to say that our clouds are registered and we're ready to work here. So I always advise once the cloud has been registered, there's a lot of different tools you can use, but it's always nice if you got some linear features. You can come in here and look at maybe some of this, the lines and whatnot, just making sure that these lines are straight and you don't have clouds left or right of them, which would indicate a bad point cloud registration. Okay, so it's always good, even after these registrations have taken place, that we do some analysis to make sure that, okay, these scans are overlapping properly, and they look good. Okay, so once we do that, basically at this point in time, we would be ready to work. Okay, so in this case, I just wanted to show a few of the tools. So, if we come in here, we can turn these scan colors on that show scan to scan. We don't have any regions set yet. Okay, so the color is the same, but the true color, this is the colorization from the photos that were captured in the field and the imported cloud data, right? So we see some color here. So what I'm going to do is just show some of the tools right now. So if I click on the whole project area, I'm going to go ahead and we're going to classify this thing. So let's say I wanted to, my interest here is the cul-de-sac, and we're going to see here in a minute, I'm going to extract this curb out. So all this other stuff to me is, not something I need at this point in time. So what I can do is select the cloud. I can create one region per class, and I prefer this instead of, and what that does is when I hit classify or extract, it's going to put all the trees on one region, all the buildings on one region. If I uncheck this, it's going to put each tree on its own region. So you're going to have several, it could be hundreds really, depending on the number of trees and buildings. So depending on what you want to do, it's up to you, but I'm going to put each one. So I'll have one region with all the buildings under it. Okay. So I've selected the cloud, and I'm just going to extract this out. And now Business Center is going to go ahead and classify this project. Troy, can you hear me? April!
Yes, Chad.
Chad, you're good.
April!
Hey, Chad.
Whoever's yelling April, you might want to turn your microphone off.
Oh, shit. I thought I was on mute. Sorry about that. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you good.
Okay. The wonders of COVID, right? That had to be pretty loud. Sorry. Okay, so Jesus, I pressed mute on my computer, but I guess that didn't take over. Sorry for that. So we've done the classifications here, and we see that we have point clouds that are, or sorry, regions that are extracted. So we have blue for the buildings, green for the trees, and red for the posts. So if I come over to my filter manager here, we can see the scans, okay, like this here, but we can also see the regions. So if I turn everything off and I just wanted to see the buildings, here they are. If I wanted to come into the ground, here's the ground, right? So poles and signs, it's right here. And power lines would be, there are some power lines in here, they're right there. So you can see that we've extracted this information out via the classification process. So pretty powerful right there. So let's say that I want to kind of focus in on the ground a little bit. So I'm going to come into the ground, take a look at this, and you know, if I click on this right here and I go to the properties of it, we can see that we're dealing with 13 million points right now, which is a lot. But if I wanted to extract the curb out, I would want, you know, a high density point cloud to do that. Okay, so I'm just going to show a tool. So I'm going to go ahead and click on the ground per se. And before I do that, let me just close this. And let's say, you know, I just wanted to focus on this area here. So what I can do is just kind of do this here. And this is what we were talking about before in the webinar about how you can go in and set a min-max range inside of the instrument. But I truly feel capture everything in the field, and then we can just simply say keep in, and now we have all the information or the target area that I want. So I say capture everything in the field and then just deal with it in the office. It's a lot quicker, and as we know, it's better to have too much information and not need it than vice versa. Okay, so just to show this tool, so we're dealing with, you know, what was it, like 13 million points. I'll go ahead and select that, and I can just sample this region down. Okay, so just to ensure that everything goes quickly here, we have a spatial and a random sampling. Spatial is just simply, okay, what's the point spacing that I need or I want, or a random, it's in, like, say, the number of points in millions, right? So I'm going to just say spatial, and I'm going to say give me a point at every 1/10 of a meter. So I'll just hit store, and Business Center is going to go ahead and just extract this out. Did it work? And that's why you have videos right there. Okay, let me try that one more time. So I'm going to do it too. Okay, so I'm going to try to extract this out. So I just switch it to every 0.2 meters. Okay, and now it's probably going to be a little fine to see right now. So I'm just going to go ahead and increase the point clouds. So you can see that I've done a sampling of the point cloud. Okay, so we've went from millions of points, okay, to a sampled down version of it. So if I go to the properties of it now, you know, we're only dealing with 18,000 points. Okay, I just wanted to show the tool. Again, if we were extracting out curb and gutter, we wouldn't do this. But let's say we have a scan of a landfill. It could be tunnels. It could be a topo, anything like that where we don't need a point. Could be stockpiles. We would go ahead and sample that down to be a little bit more efficient with the work, and then we could, you know, essentially work from there. Okay, so that's just a quick way to sample that information down. And then, you know, if we're in the point clouds here, one of the tools we got, let's say I want to know the high point and the low point of this, maybe for some contour creations. So I can say high to lowest, and you can see here's the high point on the cloud, here's the low point, and I can save that information off, and it would create that high point, low point, and we can see what those values are. Okay, but that's just a simple tool. showing that. And then again, from here, we could get into creating surfaces and what have you. So it's really just it's a nice tool that's associated with the Business Center scanning module. And again, it's a quick way to, start working on your deliverables at this point in time. Now, one of the things we can do too is, let's say, we'll see this here, and I think Dan this afternoon is going to show this. But if you wanted to get some slices out of here, there's 100 ways to do it. I can go ahead and just, draw a line like this here. I have this line here, and you can go up into the point clouds here, and you can create these cutting views along a trajectory, okay? And what this will do is I can say new, and let's just say I say cross section here, and I'll say from a linear path, okay? And then all I got to do is select the line. In this case, so this could be a DXF file that you have imported in, like a design on top of the cloud, something like that. And we can come into the subplane and so we see the line, the length of this line is about 30 meters. So let's just say I do every 5, just for speed here. And then, so Business Center has created these planes now along that path. And what that does for me is I can be in this plane view, and I would see these cross sections. Now I'm looking at that sampled version of it. So if I was to go in and look at this here, it's less than an inch. So if I say 2.5 here, okay, so now we can start seeing the cross section of that road right at this station. And now I can just simply keep working my way up station, and you can see Business Center is telling us what station we're on, and we have this cross section of the curb and gutter. And again, this is just one way to do it. There's a million ways in Business Center to get this cross section information. Dan mentioned today that he was going to cover the cross sections in depth, so I'll leave that alone. But this would be one way. There's an actual cross section tool that we can just simply we don't even have to go through this routine and pull that out. But in saying that, you can see this would be a slice of the curb and gutter, and then you can simply select these slices, if you will, and I could convert these to CAD and create whatever design out of that. So it's just a real good way to extract that information. Okay, so that's Business Center, some of the tools that I wanted to show. So now we're going to go ahead and just see some of this productivity in action. Okay, so here's that same project, and I didn't do any sampling. This is the full cloud here, and what I'm doing here now is let me go back here, the pointer screen. Okay, I just made a slice, and then I defined the shape of the curb. Okay, and so right here we're extracting the curb out of Business Center automatically using basically the curb extraction tool. Okay, and we see that I'm extracting that out automatically. So right here, Business Center stopped, and it said, okay, we didn't have enough point cloud, so I had to redefine the nodes that define the shape of the sidewalk. And this is edge of pavement, bottom of curb, top of curb, and edge of sidewalk, all in one click. Okay, so once that's there, I can go ahead and create that line, save it, and just to kind of view what I've done, I'm just going to select that. I'm going to create a surface. Okay, and there it is. And we have lots of surface tools. I could clean those up, but the big thing here is now we can see the shape of that cul-de-sac, right? Based on the line work that we extracted out of that. Okay, so here I did a surface slice, and just to kind of view, how that curb and gutter looks, and this is all done right in Business Center, so I'm not exporting anything out. But what I want to mention on this, to get good curb and gutter extraction, you need to ensure that you capture the information in the field, with adequate point clouds. But again, you could have drone information, you could have stuff from a terrestrial scanner, or it could be, say, a mobile scanner. You could bring that in and extract that information out in Business Center, and then keep going inside of Business Center, or you could export that out to any kind of CAD package via LAS format or what have you. So that's a good example of extracting the curb and gutter out. We also have point extraction. So in this case, we're going to go ahead and extract out the lamp. So this could be poles, it could be telephone poles. So I'm selecting the lamp. I hit calculate. It automatically calculates the height and the diameter of these features. And you can see right here, it's going to populate the information based on the codes. Okay, and now I'm going to extract out these trees. And you can see that it's going to give me the spread on the tree, the height on the trees, the trunk diameter. Okay, all this information is extracted out. I can post-process that now with my feature code library, and now I have those codes along with the attribute data here in Business Center, and I can export that out. Okay, so that's a very powerful tool. You can do that automatically or manually, just selecting the trees and the lamps, extracting those point features out, and then you have that information available, all from the point cloud. Okay, so here's another example of extracting power lines out. So I'm going to define the endpoint, or start point and end point on the poles. And then I just define which cables or wires that I want to extract. In this first example, it's one cable. So we see that it just drew a 3D line. Okay, so to grab the other 3 cables, I'm going to do more of an automatic workflow. So I'm going to define the start and end, and then I'm just going to pick these lines one time, and I hit extract, and we can see that these lines are being extracted out automatically. And then I can go ahead and see these lines in 3D. Okay. So again, the key to these workflows is having an adequate point cloud to extract that information out. And once you have that, it's quite easy to get that information out of the point cloud. Okay, this is another one. We were talking about measure codes before, so this is one that I copied off from a different presentation. So I did a point classification in this case, and now I'm just, instead of extracting those trees out, I'm manually picking them using the cloud. Okay, so you can see these codes for A for tree, lamp post. So you can see you're just simply measuring these things, not measuring them, just clicking on them, extracting them out. We see the trees and the codes. I process that. Now I have the lamp information and the tree information that I can go ahead and send out in a CAD format, attribute, shape files, what have you. Okay. This is a stockpile example. So I want to kind of show right here. We're going to go ahead and pull that information out. There was some vegetation, as you guys saw, on top of these stockpiles. So I'll go ahead and extract that vegetation out. And now I'm looking at the ground. I want to go ahead and define the stockpile area that I'm interested in. And then once I do that, I'll just clean that up a little bit. And we're going to see, I want to do a stockpile relative to a ground in elevation. Okay. Okay, so in Business Center now we'll do a volume calculation here, or actually right here we created a surface. Okay, and then we're going to do a surface to an elevation volume computation. And then Business Center is going to use the elevation that I chose. In this case, it was like 1600, and then show me all the information relative to that stockpile. So really easy workflow to get that information as fast as possible inside of Business Center. Okay, Chip had mentioned this. The SX12 is a very powerful tool in underground and tunneling applications, mining applications. We can get a lot of information out of the field using the SX12, using Business Center and the tunneling module. So I thought I would just show a quick overview of that so we can see we have a tunnel here. So we're going to just kind of take a look at where this tunnel is. It's actually in Chile at this point, and we can see the proposed tunnel site. So there, we're going to create the alignment. Here's the point cloud that was measured in the field with the SX12. Okay, that's the design mesh right there. And then we're going to go ahead and create an as-built mesh that was captured in the field with the SX12. So once I have that those two meshes, I can take a look at those right there. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to create some slices through here at the stationing that I want. And I'm going to create these slices on the as-built captured information with the SX12. Here they are. Okay. And then I'm going to compare those as-built slices to the design. So I can input that information in, and now I see my underbreak and overbreak relative to the design. Okay. And the tunneling workflow within Business Center is an incredible tool. If we have any underground guys on the call, we can set up a call with Monson to go over that. The tools within Business Center are very powerful, and the tools within Access are very powerful. So with the SX12, we can use that as a total station to stake out those positions in the tunnel, and we can mark those out. And then for any kind of as-builting, we can do those scans and capture that information, and again, bring it into Business Center and go from there. Okay, so this is the last example here. It's an example of basically a field to finish workflow within Business Center. So it's a landfill. So right here is the station view, and now we can see all the information captured in the field. So it's going to show and showcase a lot of the different tools in Business Center. So we're going to define the area of interest, which is this section here. And as we saw before, now I'm going to go ahead and classify this out. I don't need a point every inch on the ground. So I'm going to say, give me a point every 3 feet or every 2 feet across this landfill. And we're going to go ahead and extract this out to every 0.5 meter. Okay. So now we see the landfill that's been extracted out. Now we're only dealing with 243,000 points versus whatever it was before, 13 million, 20 million. So we're going to go ahead and create a surface using Business Center. And here it is. I can change that view simply by right-clicking and showing, basically, let's say I want to see color information relative to elevation. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and create some contours so I can actually see what's going on. And now we can see the contours within Business Center. I went ahead and drew a rectangle, which is going to be a pad, and we're going to create a surface tie, which we just did. A 1-to-1 cut and fill to get to the surface. And then we can see that visualization. And now what I'll do is I'm going to go ahead and just change the color so we can see basically the pad relative to the contours and relative to the existing ground. And now I'm going to do an earthwork report to see what it's going to take to build that pad. Okay, and once I've done that volume calculation, I got an ISO pack, so I can go ahead and use that ISO pack, which is right here, and it's showing that we're in 100% fill for the most part. And I can create an elevation grid to show me the cut fills all around that pad. So in this case, it's fill 100%. So to kind of view the deliverable that I'm looking for, I'm going to create just a vertical profile to just from for a visualization point of view. So I drew a line. I'm going to create an alignment out of that. I'm going to label it so we can see the stationing values. And then we're going to go into a vertical profile. And now I can see basically my pad, my existing ground, and just that alignment that I drew just for a elevation perspective. And then once that's done, I'm going to just create basically a box, and I'm going to use this as a Dynaview later on to showcase my isopack and then my pad itself, which is right here. Okay. And then I'm going to create a plan set. So in Business Center, I have my plan set open. I'm going to create a Dynaview. Okay, this is the actual pad itself. Okay, so it's showing the cut and fill along with the contours. Okay, and now I'm going to go back and bring in the ISO pack view, which is going to be blue, and it's just completely fill. So it's going to show me all that information, the ISO pack, the actual surface, and getting back to that vertical profile, I created that. And I'm going to go ahead and copy that information and slap that in the plan, like so. And once I have that information in there, I can close these Dynaviews down. And now we're looking at the plan set. And what I can do now is apply a grid that I created, just so we can apply a grid. You can see the grid now applied to each Dynaview. And then last, I'm going to put one in on the vertical and elevation view, if you will, along with the stationing. So it's profile. I'll go ahead and add a north arrow to the job. Okay, just putting a scale in there. And I'll also do the same with a scale bar. And with the scale bar, one of the interesting thing is I can just tag the Dynaview here, and that'll set the scale automatically. So we were using 1 to 1200 on this. There's my scale bar. I put that in place. And then the next step is just simply printing that off to a PDF. And there you go. We have a deliverable, in this case, the landfill and whatnot. So just a quick overview of Business Center and then some of the deliverables that we can achieve here. So the key takeaway that I just want to mention about the SX12 is that it is, one of the nice things about it, it's a tool that you can use every day, right? So if you're a robotic total station user and you're out in the field, you can, stake out, measure topo every day with this thing and everywhere. So if you get yourself into some scanning jobs, you can, use it as a scanner, you can use it as a total station. So it really gives you the flexibility in the field and how you want to use it. So I just want to thank all you guys for attending today. If there's any other questions, we can definitely go over those.